My beloved child, hear me now, for this is the moment all of heaven has waited to place before you, and if you dare to turn away before my voice finishes its course, you will step out of the very blessing that has been traveling toward you for years. Understand this with trembling clarity. Your arrival here is not curiosity, it is divine summons. I crafted this exact second before your name was ever spoken on earth, and every word I release carries the force to split darkness, expose what has stalked you, and overturn what no human hand could move. If you let distraction steal you now, you are not merely ignoring a message, you are resisting the breath of life itself, for I am the one who formed your spirit in the hidden places. And if your heart hardens in this holy instant while I call your name, know this. It is not the message you are turning from, it is the light that was sent to rescue you. My child, hear me. As I speak this with the full weight of heaven behind every word, for this is not a moment of gentle suggestion, but a divine intervention carved into your timeline long before you ever breathed your first breath. I have begun opening the entrances you once stood before with trembling hope, with exhausted prayers, with tears you hid even from yourself, doors that remained stubborn and unmoving, no matter how faithfully you knocked, yet now under my hand, they will swing wide as though nothing had ever dared to block them. Not because you earned it, not because you performed flawlessly, but because I have chosen to pour out a kindness so relentless it crushes every voice that once told you were unworthy. This is your hour of swift divine action, the moment when the unseen hinges of long-sealed gates crack under the pressure of my command. And not one enemy, not one painful memory, not one counterfeit fear has the authority to stop what I have already declared open over your life. I cover you like a fortress carved from fire. I repair the breaks that life has scattered across your soul. I straighten the places that were bent beneath the weight of disappointment. I guard what belongs to you with a jealousy far deeper than what you imagine. And you have not walked alone through storms, bad news, fractured relationships, or seasons, where it felt like everything good slipped through your fingers like sand. My child, this is not slow. This is not distant. This is not someday, this is instant action for while your ears hear. My words right now, my hands are already moving, arranging, overturning, releasing and restoring in realms you cannot see while you trust me. I am breaking chains you did not know you were still wearing while you lean into me. I am breathing life into places inside you that have not stirred in years while you listen. I am rewriting the outcomes of moments that scarred you so deeply you began to believe the wound was permanent. Every whispered conversation you have had inside your own mind. Every night you felt swallowed by loneliness, every sharp word that pierced you and stayed lodged inside your memory, every opportunity that vanished without explanation, every betrayal that carved itself into your heart with a blade you could not defend against, all of it has been in my sight not as passive observation but as the very landscape where I have chosen to intervene now. So do not dare treat this as another piece of content to scroll past. Do not reduce my voice to background noise, for this is the kind of word that shakes foundations and cements destinies, the kind that will stand in your life long after the world forgets what it said to you. As you listen, as you believe, as you agree with what I am saying, you are partnering with the release of what has been held in place for far too long. I am not speaking into the surface of you, but into the inner chambers where you have hidden terror, exhaustion, confusion, and the ache. You never found words for those private rooms where you sit in silence, because you think no one would understand, yet I, the one who formed your soul, walked through those rooms with authority to free you from every shadow that has made its home there. I tell you plainly, I am opening the doors you gave up on, the ones you stopped touching, because hope felt too painful to carry the ones you decided must not be for you because you waited so long you thought heaven had forgotten your name. But I say to you, child, nothing you have been through was wasted. Not one tear fell unnoticed. Not one season of silence was the abandonment you feared for. I was aligning, holding back, redirecting, and preparing what could not arrive until this very moment. Yes, this moment, the one you are in right now. I go before you with steps that shake the structures built against you. I speak into rooms you haven't entered yet. I influence decisions being made about you. Even now I soften hearts that once hardened themselves at the mention of your name, and I call back opportunities that were stolen by deception, delay, or sabotage. The same doors that once felt like stone walls will now respond to my voice like obedient servants. Not because circumstances have become easier, but because I have arrived in full authority. So listen closely, my child. This is not the hour to look back with sorrow or forward with fear. This is the hour to lift your face, breathe deeply, and know that the ground under your feet is shifting by. My command, the atmosphere around your life is rearranging itself, and the future that once felt locked away is opening with a force nothing can resist. And as I move the external pieces of your path, I am also entering the invisible corridors of your inner world, touching the wounds you hide, lifting the heaviness you learned to carry as if it were normal, clearing the fog that has clouded your decisions, calming the storms of emotion that rise and fall without warning, and replacing your instability with the unshakable steadiness of my presence. My child, I am not merely adjusting your circumstances. I am restoring your breath, your confidence, your clarity, your identity, and your strength. For the doors I open do not simply change where you walk. They change who you become as you walk through them. Therefore, do not fear this sudden shift. Do not shrink back from the intensity of my movement. Do not question whether you are worthy of what is arriving. Simply stay close, stay attentive, stay surrendered, for everything I am releasing into your life now has been waiting for the moment your heart could carry it. And that moment, my beloved child, is this one. My child, I am stepping into the center of you, into the shifting ground beneath your thoughts, into the trembling places where emotions rise and fall like unsteady waves, and I am laying down bedrock where there used to be sand. For you have lived too long being pushed back and forth by circumstances, by the moods of others, by the unpredictability of each day, and I am ending that cycle now. I am removing the pain that kept resurfacing, the ache that tightened in your chest without warning, the inner shaking that made you feel you had to hold yourself together even when you were breaking inside, and I am replacing it with a foundation so steady that the storms around you will no longer determine the weather within you. I know the atmosphere of your home more clearly than you do. I know the conversations that never happened because you feared they would spark conflict. I know the tension that sits like heavy air between walls. I know the unspoken disappointments, the gentle cracks in trust, the attempts to keep peace by swallowing words that burned your tongue. And I am walking into that environment with a strength that does not intimidate but heals, with a gentleness that does not weaken but restores. And I am turning anger into calm as easily as winds shift direction under my command. I am taking anxiety, the kind that coils around your ribs and steals your breath, and pressing into it a quiet assurance that will settle into your bones, the kind of peace that does not tremble when voices read, that does not fade when routines break, that does not shatter when the day does not go as planned. The peace I give will not be a thin blanket covering case, but a deep river running through the center of your home, reshaping the atmosphere, cleansing what has been heavy for too long, softening hearts that grew rigid from disappointment, and giving each person space to forgive, to release, to begin again. For I am not simply giving you peace. I am planting peace within the ground beneath your feet so that it becomes the environment you carry wherever you go. Every second you listen is a second of liberation. Every breath you take in, my presence is a chain snapping beneath my hand. Every word I speak is a current of living truth flowing into the dry places inside you, carving out room for strength where weakness once echoed. And when my words enter you, they do not sit idle but move like a river cutting through stone, shaping freedom in places long hardened by survival. My child, I see clearly those who have tried to dim your joy, the ones who smiled while quietly hoping you would fail, the ones who spoke kindly but calculated harm, the ones who placed obstacles disguised as advice, the ones who sought to minimize your worth because they feared the light rising in you, and none of their actions escaped. My sight, none of their motives stayed hidden behind the masks they wore for. I saw every shadow of jealousy, every whisper of competition, every attempt to steal peace from your hands. And I tell you now that those efforts are collapsing. The difficulties that once wrapped around your feet like vines are loosening, the snares set in your path are losing their tension, the traps designed to shame you are snapping shut on emptiness. And the opposition that once stood confidently against you will soon watch helplessly as my hand lifts you. You will not need to explain yourself, not to your critics, not to those who misunderstood, not to those who judged you by seasons they knew nothing about, for your vindication will not come from your mouth, but from my actions. Your rise will not require a speech, because the evidence of my intervention will be undeniable, and this is the season where the honor that was stripped from you will be returned with weight, where the places you were dismissed will become the places you are welcomed, where those who once overlooked you will have no choice but to acknowledge what I am doing. I am guiding hearts toward you, not because they suddenly like you, not because they suddenly agree with you, but because I have touched their will, I have stirred their conscience, I have shifted their intention, and I will use even the most unexpected people to open doors, provide what you lack, and remove burdens from your path. My child, nothing in your life happens by accident under my watch, not a meeting, not a glance, not a brief exchange, not a moment of favor, for every connection carries purpose. Every conversation is a thread woven intentionally. Every interaction is aligned to lead you where your calling has always pointed, and I am positioning you in roles you once believed were beyond your reach, roles you felt too small for, roles you thought had been taken by others, roles you assumed were reserved for people stronger or more confident than you. Yet these are the very places I am placing your feet, because your humility is part of your qualification. I am lifting you not because you chased positions, but because you remained faithful in hidden places. I am expanding your influence not because you demanded visibility, but because you carried integrity when no one was looking, and now the shift that has been building in silence will unfold in a way that even those who doubted you cannot deny. I am repairing the fractures within your relationships, the fractures that formed slowly through misunderstandings, disappointments, and emotional fatigue, and I am bringing clarity to tangled dynamics, exposing where manipulation disguised itself as concern, revealing where loyalty was only convenience, and strengthening the bonds that were meant to endure. I am removing the weight of unfairness from your spirit, the long-term exhaustion of always being the one who bends, sacrifices, apologizes first, and tries to keep peace at the cost of your own well-being. And I am restoring dignity to your voice, balance to your role, and respect to your presence. My child, this restoration will not require striving. It will not require you to prove your righteousness. It will not require you to win over anyone's opinion, for I will cause people to see you differently. I will shift their perception, and they will respond to you with a new awareness, because I have touched their vision. Even those who once resisted you will be softened. Even those who doubted you will be slunts. Even those who opposed you will be unable to stop what I am setting before you. So do not fear the changing tides. Do not fear the sudden rearrangements. Do not fear the unfamiliar favor, for every inch of this was designed, timed, and prepared by my hand, and I am leading you into a season where the peace inside you will be unshakable, the honor upon you will be visible, and the doors ahead of you will be undeniable. My child, this is the beginning of the restoration you prayed for but could not imagine, and I am not finished. My child, I have seen every night your eyes refuse to close, every hour you lay awake, staring into the dark, wrestling with fears about tomorrow and memories that would not quiet themselves, and I have watched the heaviness settle on your shoulders like a weight too familiar to fight. But hear me now, for I speak with the authority that shaped your very breath. I am restoring balance to every part of you. Not to one area alone, but to the whole of your being, for your strength is being renewed, your body is receiving fresh vitality, your inner rhythms are being reset. And even the thoughts that used to race uncontrollably are coming under the influence of my peace, because I am touching the places inside you that exhaustion dug into, and I am breathing life where fatigue tried to plant its flag. What you believed could never change, what you assumed was permanent. What you labeled as part of your personality simply because it stayed with you for so long. I am calling healed. I am calling whole. I am calling restored, and what once lived beyond your reach is now being brought into your hands, not by your effort, but by my decree. For I am not only mending what is broken, I am rewriting what you assumed was final, shifting outcomes you believed were sealed, and lifting what once pressed you down so low you forgot what it felt like to stand tall. My child, I tell you this so you may rest. My care does not stop at the border of your own needs. It stretches like a great wing over the ones you carry in your heart, the ones whose names rise in your prayers even when your voice is too tired to speak them aloud, the ones far from you in distance or in circumstance, the ones you ache for because you cannot fix what hurts them yet. I can, and I am already moving where your hands cannot reach. I am surrounding them with quiet protection, building walls of safety around their path and placing light in the very areas where darkness tried to settle. No amount of miles, no lapse of time, no wrong decision, no detour of their own making can block me from touching them, guiding them, shielding them, for my presence does not need permission to intervene, and my mercy does not wait for ideal conditions. I have traced routes of safety for their steps long before you even knew what they would face, and I have positioned divine help in places they have not yet arrived for, my child. Your prayers have never fallen to the ground. Empty, they have moved heaven toward those you love in ways you cannot yet imagine. I have also seen the moments when you stood in the middle of invisible hostility, when jealousy tightened around you like a cold wind, when harsh words passed by your ears even if they were not spoken to your face, when unfair judgments reached you like arrows flung from the shadows. And though you said nothing, though you kept your composure, though you swallowed your hurt to avoid conflict, I saw the wound it made, the sting it left, the way your heart clenched and your confidence dimmed for a moment. But my child, not one bitter whisper escaped. My hearing, not one false accusation slipped past my watch. Not one sneer or hidden comparison was unseen by me, and I tell you now that I am answering each one not with retaliation but with restoration. For I am clothing you in honor where shame tried to cling. I am placing certainty where you once felt small, and I am giving you a quiet dignity that cannot be shaken by the opinions of those who never understood your journey. I am replacing the chaos that swirled around you with a stillness deep enough to steady your soul, a stillness that does not rely on others behaving well but on my presence anchoring you from within, and I am lifting your head not with pride but with the recognition that you are seen, valued, and defended by the one who knows every detail of your story. The hostility that once threatened to unravel you will lose its voice. The envy that tried to shadow you will fade like mist, and the criticism that once pierced you will break against the shield I have placed around you. For I am not merely comforting you, I am establishing you. I am placing my favor on you in ways that will silence the doubts of those who spoke against you and heal the places within you where there was once lodged like thorns. My child, I am not finished, and I am not leaving you as you were, for everything that touched you unjustly is now being rewritten by my justice. Everything that weighed on you is being lifted by my strength, and everything that hurt you is becoming the very place where my glory will shine. My child, I have watched you walk through situations that felt like corridors with no doors. Places where every direction seemed blocked and every choice felt like a trap set by the decisions of others. And yet you were not swallowed, not because you were strong enough to survive, but because my hand held your soul above the waters that tried to drown you. Every moment you wanted to disappear, every insult that stung deeper than any wound to the body, every time you were overlooked when you needed to be seen, every heavy responsibility you carried in silence. So no one else would break. Every hour you whispered that you could not go on, but still took one more step. I counted all of these not as weakness, but as eternal acts of courage that I will honor openly. I am not offering you quick fixes or escapes wrapped in illusions, for I am entering the root system of your identity, the secret chambers where false beliefs about yourself were planted long before you understood how much power words could hold, and I am tearing them out. One by one, the lies that said you were too much or not enough, the labels placed on you during childhood that grew into invisible chains, the phrases spoken by careless tongues that shaped how you saw love, value, and belonging, and the dismissals that twisted your understanding of what you deserved. I am unmaking these lies in the very soil where they once grew. And I am planting truth in their place, truth that declares you are not a mistake, not late, not behind, not forgotten, not inferior, not unworthy. I am redeeming the years you thought were wasted, the seasons you believed had no meaning, the experiences you assumed disqualified you, and I am turning them into testimonies that will carry weight, for nothing surrendered to me ever returns empty, my child. Now I turn my attention to the climate within your home, not the physical rooms, but the atmosphere of emotions. The long shadows left by unresolved conflict, the sharp edges of words never spoken yet, still felt, and the cycles that repeat generation after generation like storms that come without warning. And I say to you that I am changing the weather of your household from the inside out. I am stripping away the anxieties that disguised themselves as carefulness, the constant hypervigilance that kept you bracing for disappointment, the habit of reacting quickly because you were so used to being hurt, and I am replacing these patterns with balance, clarity, calm, and direction. Where there was confusion, I am declaring intention. Where emotions rose and fell unpredictably, I am establishing stability. Where fog clouded decisions, I am creating precision. And where there was restlessness, I am laying down peace thick enough to quiet storms. I see your home in its unseen dimensions, not the furniture but the fractures, not the walls but the wounds, not the decor but the dynamics. And I am entering as the one who heals the very structure of a family story, transforming painful memories into narratives touched by grace, turning the places that once broke you into places that now become sacred markers of my intervention. And even those who live with you, the ones who appear unchanged, unmoved, unwilling to shift, are already being influenced by my hand, for I work in the background of hearts long before transformation becomes visible, and my word over your family will not return void. Not one promise will fall to the ground unfulfilled. I have also seen the faces that greeted you with smiles while harboring hidden resentment, the hands that extended warmth, while the heart behind them whispered that you should fall, the conversations you were not meant to hear yet. I heard every word, the calculations made against you in the dark, the hopes that you would stumble, The subtle sabotage is meant to slow you down, and I commend you for not retaliating, for keeping your spirit clean, for choosing restraint instead of revenge, for refusing to strike back even when your heart bled, and because of this I myself have become your shield. I am breaking down every obstacle humans placed in your way, tearing apart every snare set by deception, and nullifying every word spoken against you. For no accusation will cling to you when I stand between you and your enemies. The traps that were designed to humiliate you will collapse on their makers, and the criticism that once wounded you will become powerless in my presence. And now I am arranging relationships divinely crafted for your next season, connections built not on convenience but on truth. People sent to clear obstacles ahead of you. People who will walk beside you without envy. People who will carry part of the weight so you do not break. People who will honor your heart and not exploit your kindness. People who bring clarity, not confusion, growth, not depletion, encouragement, not competition. I am removing those who drained you, exposing those whose attachment was rooted in selfishness, gently shifting those who cannot go where you are going, and drawing near those whose spirits resonate with the calling I placed inside you. For you are entering a season where the community around you will not be built by chance but by design, relationships chosen by me like stones selected for a foundation that will not crack. My child, I am healing the deep places within you that no one else has ever noticed, and I am rebuilding the environment around you so your healing can thrive, and I am placing people beside you who will nurture what I have planted. And in all of this, I am shaping a new life that will not look like what hurt you, nor sound like what silenced you, nor repeat the cycles that once exhausted you. You will walk forward surrounded by peace, strengthened by truth, protected by my shield, and supported by those I send, for I am not only restoring you, I am establishing you. My child, there are things you have waited for so long that a quiet question formed in the back of your mind. A question you never wanted to say aloud, because it felt like betrayal of your own faith, yet it lingered. Is this even meant for me? Or am I waiting for something that will never come? And I tell you now that this question did not arise because you lacked belief, but because the passage of time without visible change can erode even the strongest expectations, and hope can feel thinner when your surroundings stay the same. But while you saw no movement, while days blended into weeks and weeks into years, I was not idle. I was working beneath the surface in ways your eyes could not detect, and the silence you interpreted as distance was the stillness of a sculptor refining every necessary detail before unveiling it. The quiet of a gardener waiting for the exact season when the seed could break the ground without being scorched. And I need you to know that the delay was never punishment, never dismissal, never neglect, for I have never ignored you, not for a single moment. And my child, what you called delay was protection. The shield that kept you from stepping prematurely into a circumstance that would have drained you, harmed you, or misaligned you from the very blessing you prayed for. I withheld not because you were unready in worth, but because the environment around you was not yet prepared to hold what I planned to release. And sometimes the silence of heaven is the strongest proof that I am preparing a door so significant it cannot be rushed. You have felt a certainty inside you lately, a strange, quiet knowing that something is shifting, something is approaching. Even though you cannot label it or explain it, and you wondered if it was merely intuition, a fleeting emotional wave, but I tell you, it is my voice pressed against your spirit, signaling that the road before you is clearing, that the weight on your chest is lifting, that the air around your destiny is changing texture, and this inner stirring you feel is the early tremor of a new season breaking through. You have grown more than you realize into someone who no longer demands to understand everything before receiving, someone who has matured past the need for predictable outcomes, someone who can stand still even when the path ahead is foggy. Trusting that my ways, though unfamiliar, are trustworthy, and you have reached a sacred threshold where you can finally receive without insisting the blessing match the shape of your original prayer. For what is coming does not look exactly like what you imagined, but it will exceed it in substance, depth, timing, and impact, because I give not according to your limited picture, but according to my perfect design. You asked for doors to open, but I am giving you territory. You asked for change in circumstance, but I am transforming identity. You asked for one specific blessing, but I am weaving together multiple answers in ways you will only understand once they unfold. This new season will not be navigated by logic alone, for the mind can analyze, but the spirit reveals, and I am teaching you to follow the gentle pull of my spirit, the impressions that rise without force, the nudges that come with peace rather than pressure, the guidance that flows from stillness rather than fear. And I will train your spirit to recognize me even before your mind catches up. I am shifting the way you see yourself, peeling off layers of false identity that were never yours to wear. Removing the weight of old narratives spoken over you by tired voices who did not know your destiny. Silencing the echoes of comparison that convinced you that you were always behind. Always lacking, always less than, and breaking the power of those internal judgments that told you you missed your moment, failed your opportunity, or delayed your own life. You will no longer measure yourself by past mistakes, by broken patterns, by the opinions of others, or by timelines that never belonged to you in the first place. I am revealing the truth of who you are through my eyes, and what I see in you is strength forged in endurance. Beauty formed through resilience, purpose, refined by fire and grace that has followed you even when you could not see it. My child, the season you are stepping into is marked not by old striving, but by divine momentum, not by confusion, but by clarity that rises slowly like dawn. Not by fear, but by courage anchored in peace, not by scarcity, but by provision that flows from unexpected places, and not by wandering, but by alignment. Delay has ended. Preparation has reached fullness, and you are not late, not misplaced, not forgotten, not behind, but exactly where you need to be for the chapter that now opens before you. The long silence was the breath before breakthrough. The stillness was the gathering of strength. The waiting was the maturing of your capacity, and the ache was the stretching of your spirit to hold what is coming. Nothing has been wasted, nothing has been lost. Nothing has been overlooked, for I have preserved every seed, every prayer, every tear, every act of obedience, and now I will multiply what survived the long night. This is your marked moment. This is your divine timestamp. This is your entrance into a season where my spirit leads you more than your reasoning, where identity triumphs over insecurity, where destiny outshines delay, and where my timing reveals why your waiting was never in vain. My child, what I am shaping within you in this season is not merely preparation to receive more, but the deep inner transformation required to keep what I am placing into your hands. Because gifts without foundation slip away like water through open fingers. Yet what I am building in you now will allow you to carry what once crushed you, stand under what once bent you, and hold without trembling what once overwhelmed your strength. This is why I am not only opening doors, but strengthening the one who will walk through them. For I do not desire that you enter a blessing only to lose it, nor step into favor only to retreat from it. So I am forming within you quiet covenants of wisdom that sharpen your perception, discernment that sees beyond surface glitter, and an inner peace that silences the storms that used to control you, establishing a steady heart that does not sway with emotion or circumstance. What I am about to entrust to you will not fade quickly, will not evaporate under pressure, and you will not return to the cycles you once lived in, nor be ruled by impulses that used to steer you off course. Because I am rewiring the pathways within you so that strength becomes instinct. Clarity becomes your default lens and calm becomes your anchor. In this same movement, I am also weaving new relationships into your path. Not accidental, not passing, but appointed for this next stage of your journey. And you will not have to beg anyone to stay nor bend yourself into exhaustion trying to earn affection. Attention or validation for those I send will recognize what I am doing in you. And they will respond not out of pity or convenience, but out of alignment. Bringing growth where others brought confusion, bringing clarity. Where others created fog, carrying weight with you. Rather than adding weight to you and supporting you in ways that strengthen the path instead of pulling you off it. Because of this elevation, shallow relationships will no longer hold your attention nor satisfy your spirit. And you will find that certain connections begin to loosen not with conflict or drama, but with a gentle drifting as they step aside, for not every companion from a past season has the strength, maturity, or vision to walk with you into the next, and their departure is not rejection but divine pruning, removing what cannot survive the altitude you are rising to. Release them with peace, for this is not loss. This is alignment, and I am protecting the purity of the work I am doing in you by guarding the environment around you. Soon decisions will approach you not heavy with anxiety, but marked by my peace, and you will know which path is right, not because it is the easiest or loudest, but because it carries a stillness that rests upon your spirit like a gentle weight, and that peace will be the signature of my hand, guiding you away from what drains you and toward what was crafted for you. The opportunity that belongs to you will not force you, frighten you, or demand frantic striving for what comes from me. Arrives with quiet authority, with a light that draws your attention without overwhelming it. And you will see it and say, this is the opening I could not create on my own. The marks of my will in this season will be ease without apathy. Clarity without pressure, acceptance without fear, movement without chaos, and the more you grow into this new rhythm, the more you will recognize that what is for you will never require you to shrink, to beg, to bleed emotionally, or to betray the person I am shaping you to become. My child, I am equipping you not for temporary gain, but for lasting stewardship, for blessings that remain stable, relationships that mature with you, assignments that stretch you without breaking you, and decisions guided by peace rather than panic. Trust the process of release, trust the drawing of new voices, trust the discomfort of growth, and trust that every step marked by my peace is leading you exactly where you are meant to go. My child, I am lifting you in this hour, not so you may chase applause or stand beneath the glow of human praise, but so that through your life, through the quiet strength I have shaped within you, many will finally see what my power looks like. When it dwells in a surrendered soul, for the attention coming toward you in this season is not a stage for your ego, but a testimony of my care, a signal fire declaring that I have been with you in every hidden moment. And the very steps you took in secret, the nights when no one noticed your faithfulness, the mornings you rose with trembling but still chose obedience, these are more precious to me than any loud display of devotion, for it is the silent endurance, the unseen sacrifices, the decisions made with no witness but heaven, that I use as the purest seeds for the beginnings I am about to unveil. Nothing in your hidden life was wasted. The quiet spaces you endured were not empty. The hollow ache you could not name was not meaningless, for those were the deep soils where I planted resilience, depth, clarity, and strength. And while you thought the silence was an absence, it was in fact a sacred womb where new forms of courage were being shaped, where the shallow layers fell away so something eternal could take root inside you. The enemy believed those silent seasons would crush you. He expected the vacancy of affirmation to suffocate your purpose. He hoped the heaviness without explanation would drive you to collapse. But instead, I used every wound, every disappointment, every unanswered question as a foundation stone, turning what attempted to bury you into the very ground you now rise from. And the places where you bled are becoming the very places where your authority flows, for the wounds that once weakened you are becoming the wells others will drink strength from. And the trials that once tried to silence your voice are now giving weight to your message, making your words a shelter for the weary, a balm for the bruised, a signpost for the lost, because you will speak not from theory but from survival, not from imagination but from victory that was forged in the dark. Others assumed your silence meant defeat, but your silence was the sound of metamorphosis, the hushed grinding of transformation beneath the surface, the sacred stillness before a breakthrough that births entirely new life. And while you believed your story had stalled, I was writing chapters you could not yet see, weaving futures while you mourned endings, aligning connections while you wrestled with loneliness, preparing platforms while you thought you were forgotten. And now I declare that the quiet era has served its purpose. The unseen formation has reached maturity. The internal stretching has created capacity. And the season of unveiling has begun, for what I forged in the secrecy of your spirit will soon manifest outwardly. Like dawn pushing away the night, my child, do not underestimate the force of your quiet surrender. The power contained in every moment you chose forgiveness over bitterness, kindness over retaliation, restraint over reaction, obedience over convenience, and faith over frustration. For each of these choices activated movements in the unseen realm, sending tremors through darkness and initiating alignments that heaven alone could orchestrate. And now those invisible shifts are gathering speed. What began like a slow turning of unseen gears is now accelerating like a river released from a dam, and soon the transformation long hidden will break into visible reality with clarity so undeniable that even your doubters will fall silent at the sight of it. The seeds you sowed in secret are rising, the tears you shed without explanation are watering breakthroughs you cannot yet fathom. And the prayers you whispered into empty rooms are echoing now in the courts of heaven, generating outcomes that will alter the direction of your life. You thought your faith was overlooked because no one applauded. But I was watching with the intensity of one who knows what gold looks like before it shines. And I saw you continuing even when your hands shook, forgiving when your heart ached, holding on when your hope thinned, and every one of those moments was counted, weighed, and woven into this new season that is now opening before you. And know this, the silence you endured was not a void, but a veil, a cover under which I safeguarded you while I carved out paths, shifted atmospheres, and rearranged destinies, and now I remove that veil, revealing what was always in motion even when your eyes could not perceive it. The time of stillness was the final breath before the leap, the tightening of the bow before the release, the gathering of the winds before the breaking of the storm. And now the tension that once felt unbearable becomes the very force that launches you forward. My child, you are stepping into a season where the private becomes public, where the invisible becomes undeniable, where the quiet roots break the surface and prove that growth was happening all along. And soon you will see how every act of unseen obedience produced visible favor, how every hidden battle gave you authority that cannot be faked, and how every silent endurance became oil for your calling. Therefore, do not despise what felt empty. Do not regret seasons that felt wasted. Do not mourn the quiet that once frightened you, because all of it was holy, all of it was purposeful, all of it was weaving strength into your core. And now, as you cross this threshold, understand that the acceleration is not random. It is the fulfillment of every faithful step you took in darkness. Every surrender that cracked your pride, every moment you laid down your will and whispered yes, even when you felt like breaking. This is why I tell you, do not hold back now. Do not shrink from the unveiling. Do not question if you are worthy, for I have tested your spirit in hidden places and found it ready, and it is time, my child, for what I shaped in secret to stand in the light. My child, those moments when you felt overlooked, when every blessing seemed close enough to touch, yet slipped through your fingers before you could grasp it, were never signs that I had withdrawn from you, but were part of a deliberate shaping, a holy training designed to prepare you for more than you dared to imagine. For I was not withholding goodness from you. I was expanding your capacity to receive it, teaching you to recognize that what I am preparing is not merely adequate but abundant, not small but expansive. And I was conditioning your spirit to hold more love, more peace, more meaning, more wholeness than before, because the measure of blessing I am bringing requires a deeper foundation than the one you once stood on. And I know the discomfort of this stretching season, the strange tension, where what used to satisfy now feels too small, where your spirit reaches for something greater while your heart fears you may not be strong enough to carry it, where expansion feels like pressure and hope feels like weight. And yet I tell you this, it is in the tightness of that spiritual pressure where I enlarge your inner strength. It is beneath the strain that I widen your spiritual lungs to breathe deeper. It is within the discomfort that I deepen the well of your confidence, turning a tiny spark into a steady flame and turning the quiet longing into a roaring clarity of purpose. I know you have asked why the silence lingered so long, why my voice felt distant, why my nearness felt faint, but hear me now. The silence was not abandonment, it was incubation, a sacred room where the unseen parts of you were being knit together with purpose, where wounds were being rewoven into wisdom, where longing was being transformed into direction, and where the empty spaces inside you were becoming chambers large enough to hold the magnitude of what is coming. Every ache, every hollow moment, every deep craving that seemed to have no outlet was part of the forging of your authentic self, the version of you unshaped by fear, unclouded by comparison, unbound from the narratives placed upon you by others, and that authentic self is now rising from the very ground of your pain. And now, my child, I am calling you not to flee from this growth, nor to recoil from the discomfort, but to embrace it, to recognize that this stretching is sacred, that it is the labor before birth, the pressure before breakthrough, the expansion before arrival. Because in the very moments you assumed I was silent, I was speaking to you in a deeper language, a language of shaping, refining, enlarging, and anchoring. And in this pressure I am pouring into you a love deeper than anything you have known, a love that is not shallow or conditional, not dependent on your perfection, but rooted in my eternal intention. A love that does not waver with your feelings or diminish with your doubts, but grows stronger in your moments of exhaustion, your vulnerability, your longing. This love is working beneath your fears, beneath your hesitation, beneath your trembling, preparing blessings that exceed your comprehension, designing pathways you never imagined, arranging opportunities that surpass the boundaries of your prayers. For I am not merely restoring what you lost, I am reimagining what is possible for you. I am not merely answering what you asked, I am exceeding it. I am not simply closing the wounds of your past, I am creating a future where those wounds become windows of compassion, strength, and influence. I do not invite you to endure this season so you can survive it. I invite you to embrace it so you can rise from it. And I know you have feared that asking for more was selfish, that yearning for greater purpose was presumptuous, that desiring deeper peace was too much. But I tell you now, the desire for more was planted by me, not to torment you, but to awaken you, not to break you, but to stretch you, not to shame you, but to call you higher, because the space within you is expanding to match the destiny ahead of you. And I am preparing blessings that are not fragile, but fortified gifts that do not evaporate, but endure, answers that do not disappoint, but anchor, and purposes that do not flicker, but blaze. Everything I am doing in this moment, every pull, every tension, every longing, every ache is a sign of expansion, not rejection. And I ask you now to trust me enough to step into this widening, to breathe deeply in this pressure, to recognize that you are standing in the threshold of the more you once thought was out of reach. For I am sending a deeper love, more unconditional than anything you have known, preparing blessings beyond the borders of your imagination, opening pathways you never planned for, and guiding you into a season whose size matches the true magnitude of who you are becoming. My child, do not run from this process. Do not shrink from the ache. Do not misinterpret the stretching as punishment, for this is the sculpting of your destiny. This is the awakening of your true self. This is the holy expansion before the revealing of what I have prepared for you, and soon, very soon, you will understand why nothing before this moment was wasted. My child, I tell you with all the weight of my word that a new chapter has already begun for you. Even if the room you sit in looks unchanged, even if the faces around you seem the same, even if the scenery of your life appears familiar. Do not be deceived by what your eyes see, for underneath the surface the ground has shifted and the story has turned, and what once stood still is now moving in exact alignment with my timing. Every time you chose to continue when you wanted to stop, every time you whispered yes to me, when confusion wrapped around your mind, every time you decided to trust rather than surrender to despair. Heaven recorded it, and heaven responded, and heaven has woven those quiet choices into the very fabric of this new season. Not one pain has been wasted, not one silent sorrow ignored, not one tear vanished without purpose. I have gathered them all as seed, and from what was meant to shatter you, I am building a platform beneath your feet, turning broken ground into the very stage from which you will rise and speak, turning the scars that once made you hide into marks of glory that shine with the evidence of my healing. You are not circling the same wilderness again. You are not doomed to repeat old cycles. With a new name for you have already stepped across a line in the unseen, and the things that once tore your heart now find their power drained. The worries that once wrapped your ankles like chains are loosening and falling away, and this release is not your imagination. It is the clear sign that a new season has opened over you. My child, your true self is anchored in me now, not in the shifting weather of opinion, not in the rise and fall of praise and criticism, not in the applause of the crowd or the silence of those who never saw you. For I have fastened your identity to something that cannot be moved, and you no longer need to chase the approval that once exhausted you. What I am doing inside you will not end with you. It will flow beyond your lifetime, touching sons and daughters, family and spiritual family generations. You will never meet in the flesh, and they will find freedom because you let me transform you in the hidden place. They will discover new paths because you allowed me to break old patterns. I am using your life as a doorway, as a bridge, as a road others can walk on when they are too tired to cut a path for themselves, and the yes you gave me in pain is becoming a map for many who come after you. And now, beloved child, I invite you to respond not just with feeling but with action, to refuse to let what you have received stop at the borders of your own life, and instead become a conduit, a living channel of the grace that has met you here. As you invest in this message, as you support the voice that carried my words to you, you are not fueling a human work but joining your strength to my mission, so that other hearts still trapped in the silence you remember can be reached and lifted. Do not underestimate what it means when you choose to participate, when you decide that the comfort you have received will not end with you. In that choice, I multiply impact. I stretch this same truth across distances you will never travel. And I turn your agreement into light for those who still sit in a kind of night you once knew too well. Return to this place of hearing, come back again and again, for my revelation over your life is not a single drop, but a continual river, and I have more to say, more to heal, more to uncover, more to build. I do not run out of wisdom for you, and I do not grow weary of guiding you. As you wait between words, do not stand in fear. Walk in peace, knowing my arms are an unseen shield around your days, around your home, around the ones whose names you carry in your prayers. My protection is not fragile, my watchfulness does not flicker, and my purpose for you is not a tentative idea that can be ruined by one storm or one misstep. It is a settled decree written before time began, held secure in my hands, and I will finish what I started in you. My love for you, child, does not waver with your moods, does not thin under pressure, does not retreat when you are tired or doubting. It is steady, fierce, and enduring, and as you step into this new season, let that love be the ground under every decision and the air in every breath, for you are held, you are seen, you are sent, and you will not walk a single step of this fresh beginning alone. My child, when you look back on the quiet years you did not understand, you will see how I was threading meaning through what felt like empty days, training your eyes to recognize me without scenes, your ears to hear me without noise, your heart to lean when there was nothing visible to lean on. The strength you will stand in tomorrow is the sum of every unseen yes you gave me yesterday, and the peace that will mark your future is born from every night you placed your fear in my hands instead of letting it rule your mind. You asked if praying in the dark mattered, if forgiving in silence mattered, if showing kindness when no one thanked you mattered, if walking away from temptation when no one would ever know mattered, and I answer you now with clarity. It all mattered, every moment, every choice, every surrender, for in those hidden places your spirit was forged and your character became a vessel able to carry the weight of what I am entrusting to you. This is why I now call you to see yourself as I see you, not as someone barely hanging on, but as one. Tempered in fire, stretched yet unbroken, shaken yet still rooted, ready to hold responsibility and influence that would once have crushed you. The season ahead is not louder for the sake of noise, it is fuller for the sake of purpose. And I am positioning you in spaces where your story will speak even before your words do, where your presence will carry a calm others do not understand, where the way you move through rooms and conversations will quietly testify that there is another hand steadying you. You will notice that what once triggered panic now stirs prayer. What once made you shut down now draws you to seek my counsel. What once sent you spiraling now finds you strangely steady. These are not small changes, but clear signs of the transformation I have already completed within you. So when fear whispers that you are not ready, remind your heart that I chose this timing, knowing every detail of your journey. When shame rises to say your past disqualifies you, remind your soul that I have already woven that past into a testimony that will help set others free. When weariness suggests it would be safer to hide, remember that I did not bring you through the night to return you to the shadows, but to let the light in you reach those still sitting in their own darkness. Go from this moment not as one who barely survived, but as one trusted with much because they remained faithful with little. Look for those whose eyes carry the same questions you once carried, and let my comfort flow through you to them. As you speak when I nudge you to speak, give. When I stir you to give and stand beside those I point out to you, you are multiplying the very grace that rescued you. And know this, I will meet you again and again in the secret place, for my conversation with you is not finished. Each time you return, I will be here, and my protection, purpose, and love will quietly surround you always.